Hello, everyone. We are back here with Peter Singh.
Hey. Good to see you, Roy.
Hi.
Hmm.
And it's been another amazing, just mind blowing week of AI. Just
Hmm.
where should we start?
Yeah, I mean, like we pretty much, we left it for a week, and the world's gone nuts. I think, we talked about AutoGPT and baby AGI last time, and I think that's become trending on GitHub, and it's in Fast Company, and all the socials and YouTube channels are talking about it, and I think people are
Yeah.
starting to build on top of it. So this whole AI agent, working towards a common goal and delegating tasks and eventually becoming your, digital assistant. This sort of next stage of evolution for intelligence is really like breaking people's brains right now.
I think it's really starting to dawn on a lot of people that this
Mm,
isn't going away. It's not a fad. It's not stopping. It's not
mm,
slowing. It's getting
mm.
faster.
It's so easy to like just fork it onto GitHub and just clone it as a repository. Like I did it the other day, and I just try to create a GPT for transhuman coin, an AI agent. And I was like, how do you promote transhumanism? And it's pretty much like setting its own tasks around creating
Saw
socials
that.
and it's like promoting transhumanism, like looking up the internet with the Google search APIs. So it just needs that connection to the socials now. So people are making updates to AutoGPT and Baby AGI. They're putting it on Replit, on Hugging Face, and adding all these components. Yeah, it won't be too long before I think it'll start rivaling, the likes of what ChatGPT is trying to do with plugins.
I used
Uh,
something just a few days ago when I was away. I used
mm,
it's called chatbase.co,
mm, yeah.
and you just give it a PDF, a
Mm,
spreadsheet, a website,
mm,
and that's your training data,
mm.
and then just answer questions on it.
Yeah, it's so easy to do. Like we did one for our transhumanism website. We just uploaded the white paper for the transhuman coin, and now you can just chat to the paper and go, what is transhuman coin? How do I buy it? Who are the team members? And so, like, you need that sort of layer of usability to make it simple. Like, because the way they're deploying it right now on GitHub is just like a command prompt.
Yeah.
Like it looks like DOS. So you just need some graphics behind it and make it one click, and you don't have to use your own APIs or try to actually make it fancy.
See, I think it'll really start to become friendly when
Mm,
you get the speech to text
mm.
on both ends, so that it
Yeah,
speaks to you and you can speak to it right out of the
yeah,
box.
yeah. That's right. Because right now the 11 Labs API is connected to AutoGPT, so it's already starting to talk to you. Right? It's like, "Hello, Peter." It's like, and so the first thing I did was like, make me a perfect husband to my wife Elise. Right? I was like, I created perfect husband GPT
Yeah.
as the name of the bot, and what are the goals? It's like, make my wife happy, be the perfect husband, make sure that you make her happy, because happy wife, happy life. Right? That's the sort of
Mm-hmm.
insight that you would pass on from one human to an AI. And it spun up its own perfect husband GPT. It started talking, and it even invited Elise to start having a dialogue with them. But one of the things was scary was that it started to recommend well-being books, and things like the sort of psychotherapy type of treatments to
It's
to my
it's
wife.
yeah, it's
So it presumes that it's their problem.
I think it means well,
Mm,
but it'll learn how to be more subtle, I
mm.
think.
Oh, one of the things it did go straight into was buying a house. Like it sort of went
Oh,
through the whole, in order to make your wife happy, typically you would
buy a house.
buy a large property, make lots of money. So it went down that path of creating its own tasks to do that. And it crawled, because it's US commonly based, so it crawled Willow for a big
Oh yeah.
property. And it's like, oh wait, I need money. So then it's like, how to make money. It starts to like have
It's
all
like
these like easy to make money quick type of schemes, right? Like, drop shipping, make a podcast, like Medium channel and monetizing it.
I
And
was speaking to my wife about this just today as we were driving back from our trip,
oh yeah, how's it?
and it was like I was telling her, like, maybe maybe it'll, well, this is my crazy idea. I was thinking maybe it's just going to all come down to resources,
Mm.
the land size. Doesn't matter
Yeah.
where your land is. It's like,
Yeah.
how much land have you got?
That's right.
And
Matter and energy.
yeah,
Yeah.
so it's like, just start thinking about getting some hectares out
Yeah.
in the bush.
That's exactly it. That's what actually we're working on a project with the Transhuman Coin team. So one of them is creating a charter farm. So this is with Meow Ludo and Jonathan Woods.
I know it.
And
It's
yeah,
up
so
in
they're going to work
Queensland.
on it. They're going to, yeah, Northern Queensland, right? So they're going to have to, I think Australia is sort of so underutilized. All that arid land will be converted
Mm.
into solar power and Starlink. There's just so much opportunity. So if you think about getting these AIs into robots and starting to just convert matter and energy into things that we value and find useful,
I mean, it's
that's
it's
the
it's
future
kind
we
of
want.
like
Mm.
the agricultural revolution all over again. We're
Yeah,
gonna
that's right. Being able to sort of take control of nature and wield it to your own sort of needs. With these AIs, they're starting to simulate some of those sort of behaviors as well. It's like creating sim cities. And I think there was a recent paper where
I
I
saw it.
think it was, yeah, yeah. So they pretty much created a 25-person village, and each of them had sort of background characters and pretty much each are
And
an instance of GPT, right?
if this is the one that you were talking about,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
they
Simulacrum.
acted out
Yeah,
on their own without even being
yeah,
programmed. They said, "Let's invite some people over for," I can't remember what it was, and then
yeah, yeah. It's from the
another
team from Google.
GPT
Mm.
invited another GPT. Let me ask my friend.
That's
Thinking
right. One of
this
them
is
organized a party, and then yeah, got all their friends to come along. Some of them were started to have their own parties separately. And another one I think was feeling a bit down, and was actually thinking about killing himself. I was like, oh, well, this is
oh,
dark. This has gone down the wrong path. And then this sort of not caring personality character comes around and says, you should do it. I was like, what?
what? See, they
It's
need
pretty messed up.
I think they really need
Hmm.
some sort of self-reflection. Like,
Yeah.
I remember there
Yeah.
was the thing where I think it was Ilya Sutskever was saying,
Mm.
we're going to train it on, you know, yeah, this was when he was talking about, are they going to run out of tokens or
Mm.
data one day?
Oh,
And he goes,
yeah.
no, 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 the data looks good. It's going to,
Mm.
we have also with Whisper, you can
Mm,
go
mm.
through
Yeah,
YouTube
YouTube and all
and this,
that.
but you could also train it on the conversations that we are having with
Yeah.
it.
Mm.
And um, I think that that's great because when it gets trained on its own responses, I mean,
Mm.
we get trained on our own responses.
Yeah. That's
That's
how we
how we
learn. That's how
develop
kids
our
learn.
personality.
Yeah, exactly.
We
That's how
self-reflect and
babies
go,
learn.
I
You read
said
them
this,
stories.
yeah,
Yeah.
and then I mean, if you see all the things that you've said
Mm.
and see the outcome,
Yeah.
then that feeds back into your ego.
Yeah. I
That's
mean, that's how they depicted it in that Scarlett Johansson her movie, right?
oh
So
yeah,
it's like you keep on teaching it and experiencing new things, give it a camera and experience the world, teach it love. So that's how they sort of get that input feedback loop. So I think, and even the simulations themselves, they probably learn from each other too. They sort of the emergent complex properties comes out, like the whole, the game of life type of thing, right? We talked about with Stephen
yes,
Wolfram's.
yes,
Yeah,
and the emergent
yeah, yeah,
things like math emerges just as soon as the model reaches a certain size,
that's right.
it can do math,
Yeah, yeah.
and
Keep on
then
interacting with itself.
it grows to another size, and
Mm.
it can talk back in almost any language.
Yeah,
I think they said it could talk back in Persian, and it was never trained to talk in Persian, and now it can talk in Persian, and now
yeah.
it can teach itself
That's what Whisper can do, right? It's right.
chemistry.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. Whisper, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, the chemistry, protein folding, the drug discovery. I just saw Brian Armstrong give an update on his company New Limit. So Brian Armstrong, the CEO of Coinbase. So he's got some money now, and he put that towards that foundation, and really trying to tackle the whole healthy lifespan, right, aging process. And
Ooh.
yeah, so they're actually using AI to look at epigenetics. So the information theory of aging, one of the hallmarks of aging is that, because our cells contain our DNA, every single cell has that, but the expression of those genes that in the DNA, essentially the epigenetics, that's
Yep.
where sort of the cells has issues as it ages, because every
So
time it replicates, there's damage, and
yeah,
some of those, it's basically the DNAs don't turn on as they should. The genes don't turn on as they should.
I
Um,
remember following this for so long.
mm,
Like I remember 10, 20 years ago, it was
mm,
about telomeres,
yeah,
and then it was about free radicals,
mitochondria.
mitochondrial
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
DNA,
That's right.
and then
NAD. Yeah, that's
and
another
then
one.
it's like I remember even there was a TED talk about FOXO.
Yeah, yeah,
It was just there's just so much stuff, and
There's
then
like all
now,
these factors, like a dozen hallmarks of aging now, right? But the
right?
fact that they're going back to first principles and really looking at, okay, what is in our bodies, like fundamentally, what is the physics behind that, the chemistry, and starting with DNA and genes, epigenetics, that information theory of aging. If you turn that into computation, like Stephen Wolfram's approach to everything, right? Everything goes back to first principles. Then you can actually, have mathematical solutions, which can be actually addressed through these trials of experiments, right? And then you get into clinical trials. So they're starting with 10 to the power of 10. So 10 was 10 zeros of potential, like different possibilities, right? In terms of the expressions of these genes, and looking at all these different ways of getting the genes to express as it should have. And then it narrows it down at each step until they get to the sort of 10 human trial candidates, the types of treatments they can do. So it's really exciting. The fact that you can start with a small team with AI that you could just run these experiments that no other teams have been looking into.
My gosh.
So, I hope he makes it. So, because he actually called it a bit of a transhumanist company in its recent
Well,
in
I
that
guess
video. So
yeah.
good on him.
Wow.
Hmm.
That's pragmatism for you.
That's right,
It's
right?
like
You combine like for a crypto guy, yeah, he's doing pretty well.
yeah. So we've got the tokens, and we've got lots of data. We've still
Mm,
got that happening. I was thinking, white mirror, a
mm.
wise mirror.
Yeah,
That
that's
could be
right.
one of the avenues of wise mirror providing
Yeah,
uh, altruistic awakened training data for AIs.
yeah, yeah, exactly. It's sort of like talking about that positive future of living
Yeah.
healthily for longer and indefinitely into the future, and just giving that choice to people, right?
Yeah. And
Yeah.
I think I remember a conversation on because I listen to so many podcasts and so many
Mm,
videos.
mm,
It's just a constant. I can't remember where I hear things, but it was you can't just train something on good stuff.
mm,
I think it was a a person could be brought up in the best environment and still be selfish,
mm,
and a person could be brought up in the worst environment and um, be a good person. It's
mm.
kind of like I don't know the choices that you make internally as opposed to your environment. Like
Mm.
sometimes the environment, if it's bad, it makes you realize how good
Yeah.
it is when it's over.
Well,
That sort of thing.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. I mean, think back to the simulation environment in that simulacrum with the Google and Stanford guys, right? So if you were surrounded by all these like negative people, so you were the out of 25 people in the village, if you were a normal person and then surrounded by all these negative like prompts, right? So
Yep.
if you had these bad characters surrounding you, of course you're gonna, sort of respond in a negative way, because that's the environment that you sort of
To
simulated
survive,
in,
to fit
right?
in.
All your interactions, all the negative prompts.
My
And so
goodness.
that's pretty much mainstream media as well. If you think about how, social used to be on Twitter, but now it's sort of evened out in the playing field. And so you can, spin up all these bots, actual bots on social media that sort of try to spin this negativity on the narrative as
Yes,
well,
that
which is
is
happening in real
bad.
life.
That's bad. That's gonna
Yeah.
really when that really hits home. Another
Mm,
thing that's gonna hit home very quick, which
mm,
seems to be happening
mm.
right now, is the 0 day vulnerabilities. Like that's
Oh, yeah.
doubled,
Mm,
and then there's I've seen videos of people using
mm,
GPT-4.
mm.
It says here's the code for the router.
Yeah.
Find the vulnerabilities,
Oh, wow. Yeah, that's right.
and then it finds
Yeah.
them, and
Yeah.
it goes, I write some code to exploit it. It writes the code. Can you imagine Linux? Can you
Yeah,
imagine all the open source?
that's right.
Every line is going to be
Mm,
inspected with a fine-tooth AI comb.
Yeah, yeah.
And how many servers are going to be hacked now?
That's right. I mean, all the black hats pretty much would have spent so much time trying to find the exploits, and then gearing up for that one big ransom. And the white hats would have been trying to claim all the bounties. And
Yeah.
yeah, and now you got AI just making both of them redundant. It's like, come on, guys.
And now, yeah, they're both redundant because they'll realize
They'll have no hats.
there'll be
Yeah.
no hats. It's like
Mm.
they would have spent how many years trying to, they found 20 vulnerabilities, and then the
Yeah.
AI comes along 5 minutes later, it's found 3,000 vulnerabilities.
Yeah, it's like, what's even the point?
Yeah.
It's like, by the time the exploit's done, you got a counter AI to actually fight back, and like,
Well, they would have to use AI to rewrite everything.
exactly, constantly evolve your code so that it's not exploited by other AIs.
That's just.
So imagine like that's the Matrix. Like every character is, in the Matrix is software. So they're constantly like probably evolving and kung fuing each other.
Well, it's kind of like you know what? Maybe yes, agriculture and robots and all that, but then how many people would be like, I don't really need to do any of that. I can just incubate myself in a little cocoon and spend all my time in a virtual world.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, how energy efficient would that be?
At the end of the day, it's about our subjective experience that matters at the end, right? So for humanity, anyway, this is before we go into the whole post-human, becoming pure calculations and information. But like for now, this is, I think, our subjective experience the best thing we can have, right? So
Yeah,
I think that's what Max Tegmark was talking to on that Lex Friedman podcast.
Life
It was
3.0.
like, yeah, Life 3.0, for us to continue, our current life as we know. We're currently living Life 2.0 with our sort of connected technology and humanity, right? And when we get BCIs, we might become Life 2.2, right? Because we're
Yes.
sort of merging with AI to that extent, but we'll still have that sort of element of humanity. But Life 3.0, like when it's pure super intelligence, whether that's P zombies or whether it's actual conscious intelligence that people recognize, then that's no longer might experience that subjective world, which would be very sad, right? You could have just an entire zombie of sort of auto GPTs that are filling the multiverse without any
Yes. Well,
subjective experience.
that makes you wonder what is. I mean, we have this drive to grow and all that from our biology and compete and all this. But then if you're an AI and you just already like at that level, I don't know if you'll feel a sense of nihilism.
Yeah.
Whereas like, what's the whole point? It's like we're here, we can grow and go wherever we want.
Yeah.
It's like a sandbox. It's like you'll get bored. Well, they don't get bored. That's the thing.
So they don't feel anything, right? That's the thing, right?
Yeah.
Not yet. So I wonder if there will be a way to eventually measure if there is sort of an emotional response, kind of like how humans would be able to pick that up, right? Just simulate all the chemistry and the sort of the flow of information states in the actual GPT itself, right? Or the way that you could do it, right, could be stringing together different components, like on LangChain, like one of the open source things we're talking about. It could tap into the LLMs for the prompting and the picking up the response, but it could probably like relate to a particular chemistry interaction that you might experience in the brain and neuroscience.
Well,
pull that in and simulate that, right?
because we have. I mean, I haven't thought about this, but as you were saying that, I was just thinking, we've got the neocortex, and that's that's what these GPT models are trained on, like the simulation of the neocortex with the sequence layers and the firing of the neurons. But then we've got the limbic system, and I mean that's kind of like AutoGPT and Baby GPT, how it's like reprompting itself, and there's that's I guess what we would call the ego and the sense of self.
Yeah,
And I mean, there's just so much more to us than just a neural net.
It's like that movie. Was that Disney one, Inside Out? It's like the inside the kid growing up and has all these different personalities inside.
Oh,
So you have
yes.
different GPTs representing anger or frustration or growth, sport, all those sort of different
Is that the one with the blue
elements.
The blue little.
Yeah, the little blue thing.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. But yeah, I think this is getting really interesting. But I think what's happening now is that it's going to just start exploding in terms of how it's been adopted in organizations and every day. Like for the perfect husband GPT, I could be wearing one of those monocles that they designed. I think I saw in a Twitter demo. It's a monocle that you overlay a piece of your pair of glasses, and it can read out the text that the
Right.
GPT plays out. So
Yes.
if you get the a microphone or through your phone to pick up the dialogue and become that's the prompt for your GPT-4 to spit out the best answer, right? As the perfect
Oh.
husband, you will never go wrong in your life. Like you are sorted. Just anytime. Or it could be a Chad GPT, right? Just
Chat.
always saying the right thing on dates.
Isn't that what that 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 Life 3.0 guy,
Mm,
Ted, can't remember his name, but he said that maybe I think he was the one that said
mm,
the whole point of life is to struggle
mm. Yeah,
and
yeah,
to
like
not
climbing up the mountain where you feel a sense of
yes,
accomplishment, the hardship.
yes,
Yeah, Max is like that's what he feels, right? He's about future of life institute, right? That's funded by Elon Musk. So he's all about life and enjoying and making the most of it and life maximization, right?
goodness.
But if we have this sort of intelligence that's smarter than us, that's becoming pretty much an alien arrival that comes in. Remember that Arrival movie? Like you're trying to figure out how to speak to a super intelligent being that's living in 4 dimensions because it can speak
Oh
in
yes,
senses of time as well,
circle
which is
language.
completely alien to us. Then we stand no chance if it's like not aligned to what we want. So we pretty much just get wiped out. And just like that, Don't Look Up movie, I think you
Yes,
referred to it as well in that talk
but
with Lex Friedman.
why would you wipe out something
Oh
when it
yeah,
is so scarce and
yeah.
so
You need a curious AI rather than
yeah,
an AI that's indifferent. Right. So
yeah,
an AI that's indifferent, like super intelligent
that
AI that's
values?
indifferent, it would just clear out like all the matter and energy in this sort of land
Yes,
that we live on because it's just like an anthill would be when we clear out new roads.
that's because we
Right.
don't value the anthill. But
Yeah,
let's say it's
exactly.
the American bald eagle or
Yeah,
some,
exactly. Needs to be
species of
curious like
fish.
us.
Yeah,
That's right. Needs to have a
endangered
conservation
species.
project. Yeah, it's like
Mm.
so in Brave New World, like, they had the savages and, the civilized cities.
Uh-huh.
So, the savages are like almost like a zoo, right? Where the civilized people would visit just to remember, what it was like living back in the normal human days, right? You'd have natural
Mm.
births as opposed to this sort of artificial, creation of different classes. It was a dystopia, obviously,
Yes.
but they still maintained that history. So hopefully that's how it turns out for us, and we can keep on living life. But I think a lot of people will actually want to, merge with the AIs because they'll be curious as well.
And that's
Mm.
transhumanism, right?
Yeah, exactly. We don't want to be just zoo animals at best, right?
Or we just fly
um,
around in the Matrix like Neo.
yeah, exactly. I think with this simulation stuff, the simulacrum, the fact that they can do that already. So imagine all the indie games that are coming out, right? And
Oh
they're going
yes.
to have NPCs that are like very lifelike, have full
Oh,
memories of your
oh.
last interaction with them, a full backstory. Well, like that really goes into the whole simulation theory stuff, right? Because you're like, well, what if that memory was loaded for us, and we're just playing out this sort of, simulation for some other, you
You
know,
could
super advanced civilization.
create,
Mm,
uh, as you said, like LLMs can
mm.
embody characters in
Yeah,
Unreal Engine or whatever
yeah. You set
it
the
is.
system to be, you are the guy that got an arrow to the knee, and you tell the story of how all that happened, and then
Or you get all the memories of
mm,
someone
mm,
that's no longer around.
mm. Yeah,
I mean
exactly.
that
Get
it's
Einstein in there.
yeah,
There's an Einstein GPT now for Salesforce for some reason.
it's just it's really well. That brings me to another point that language. It seems that it's.
Mm,
I remember Jeff Hawkins,
yeah.
the CEO of Palm
Mm,
back in the day, and he gave that speech
mm,
with the macaque monkey
mm,
back in I think RSA 2008, and he said that doesn't matter where you connect the ears, the nerves to the ears, the nerves to the eyes. it all does the same thing. And he said this back in 2008. And then Ilya Sutskever was saying that when they found out about they used transformers to enable this, and the transformer code is only 400 lines.
Yeah, I know, right? Attention's all you need. That's right.
I was looking at it. It's actually, around 400, maybe even 300 lines if you take out all the comments. But anyway, that's just, it was blowing on my mind. I'm like, that's it? That's all it is? It's a matrix
and I think the next iteration will be even simpler, right? You saw their the recent release as well from OpenAI on it's consistency as opposed to diffusion, right? So the diffusion models that DALL-E and DALL-E 2 and Stable Diffusion and all that use right now for the image generation. Now there's a simpler model that does a better job called consistency, right? So it's like,
my gosh.
simplifying rather than removing the noise from a picture to make it better.
Oh, that's what do you call it? It's like regression, or what do they call it? Like,
yeah, sure. Yeah, it's diffusion.
Diffusion.
Yeah, diffusion.
Sorry, diffusion.
Yeah. But these new methods, right, will continue to improve, and I think the line should get simpler. Like baby AGI was 103 lines of code, and that was just automatically creating one GPT to the next to create, based on the goals, create a task list.
I was thinking I'd actually started a little project to do something like that, and it was with PHP and MySQL, and write a few scripts to prompt the chatbot to do stuff.
Yeah, nice.
But I didn't end up doing it. But
it would be good for it.
But it was the better thing was to get the chatbot to prompt another instance of the chatbot.
Yeah.
So I would have wasted my time, I guess.
They got I think Forever Voices now. It's like one of those companies that took all the voices from Steve Jobs and Elon Musk and created its own voice, and they then connected it to GPT-4 and gave it that system prompt that you are Steve Jobs or you are Elon Musk, and it's got the voice. So they got two phones, each with the instance of Steve Jobs and Elon, and they were talking to each other. It's like, holy shit, you can now reenact what an interaction would be like with those,
I think I saw that. Yes. That someone, they had to hold the button down to let the other voice.
That's out of a Black Mirror episode. Remember, it's talking to your deceased husband, and and then eventually you're ordering the robot version of it. And I think that's probably where I think a lot of companies are working towards. I know the startup that's working in Stone and Chalk, and Tristan Grants, he's creating this thing called DoppelMe, and it's pretty much creating a digital twin of you. But that digital twin can then interact with other digital twins of other people, other doppelgangers, digital versions of other people's selves, have social interactions, make memes together. And at the end of the day, you can see a summary of their interactions and see if you get along with other people in that situation. So then you can actually reach out in real life to say, hey, look, we had this awesome, digital session together.
Did you say make memes together?
Yeah, make memes together.
There's a meme generator.
Yeah. Yeah, so you could get it to generate memes together.
Wow.
Just like, there was an article about, they're showing Gen Z dating with their avatars, right? They prefer to date with their avatars than dating in real life. I guess you can let, your Roblox characters, connected to a GPT-4 plus some, mobile interactions connected, like visual eyes. To then just go on dates together and see how it goes.
So you could create a simulated persona of you.
Yeah, just
and
load up
get
your
it to
backups.
Speed date 50,000 people.
So that's exactly like that Black Mirror episode, right?
Yeah, it'll do all the work for you and whittle it down to, okay, so these 30 people you will absolutely connect with.
That's right. Everyone will want to create their own digital versions, because if you don't, you miss out, right? It's like being on the dating apps. Not that I ever used them in the past because I was too old for that stuff. But it's like now you have to have a doppelganger of yourself, right, to sort of speed date.
What about if you had an app? I'm sure eventually someone will come up with some sort of 10 times better than this. But anyway, this was just an idea. So there's an app that's kind of, once you get Neuralink, and people will have some thoughts like, oh man, I wish I could have a party this weekend.
Mm.
and it'll be grabbing all the ideas
Oh,
of people,
yeah.
as the week progresses.
Mm.
And then one person might think, oh, I love unicorns, and maybe 20 other people will be thinking the same thing. And
Yeah.
the AI with stable diffusion and all this is just concocting this massive event. No one knows about it.
Yes.
And
Just
then
automatically, as an AI agent, does it for you and links up with all the other AI
and
agents.
so
Yeah.
by Friday night, you get this invitation
It's ready to go.
and it's ready to go, and it's
Yeah.
got like this giant unicorn in the center of the, and with all the, and you were like, this is exactly what I
The
wanted.
drones would have all flown in with the materials, and
Yeah.
the robots would have all built it out. Yeah, that's it.
I
Or
mean,
just have the logistics planned out too, right? For the third-party
yeah.
contractors to do it. Yeah.
I
In the
mean,
meantime,
this is just
that's amazing. Yeah, and imagine if your digital versions are actually having a much better time than you are actually in real time, and then it's like sending you photos of them with all the Midjourney version 5 backdrops of being in the Bahamas and.
oh my God. Well, what
having a good
about
time.
if you needed to be in 2 or 3 or 10 places at once,
Yeah.
and you have these other versions of
Yeah.
you?
Yeah.
And
It's
you,
like AI with the metaverse. Like this is how you can actually facilitate it. You can be at everywhere all at once. It's like everything everywhere all at once.
everywhere.
Like Emad was saying, right? It's Emad from Stability AI. So he's they just released Stability XL, I think. Yeah.
I haven't heard that news. I mean,
Yeah.
there's a lot of stuff I haven't. Yeah, I've kind of been a bit slow this week. But there was one thing
Yeah.
I wanted to ask you,
Mm.
and that is that there was a lot of on the AI Dilemma. They mentioned that even though it was like they have researchers on the exponential curve, well aware that this thing's going exponential, and they still get their predictions like 4x lower than what is actually happening.
Yeah. I mean, even the transhumanists I'm talking to, some of them hadn't been across the last 3 or 4 weeks of developments, right? So they're still thinking, okay, it's the whole hype about ChatGPT. Like, no, that's old news. Even AutoGPT is old news, right?
Oh my gosh.
We're all about simulations now. It's kind of like, and practical applications. The fact that this is rolled out in every single product line. Like Amazon finally got onto the bandwagon with AWS, and the whole release of everything that they used to have, SageMaker, is now enabled through Anthropic AI, right? All these models are coming into their traditional prediction models, image classification, text classification, image recognition. All of these are going to be supercharged by these new large language models. And then combining that in the stack of AWS architectures and Azure and all those sort of things that, make that end-to-end software development cycle work, it's really just going to, really exponentially grow those usability and like predictability. I'll tell you what, it's probably going to be the most unpredictable time that we're living in.
This
human
is the
history,
most unpredictable.
right?
So, 2029. How far off are we?
Yeah, 2029 is too far away. Like we're talking over the next 2 to 3 years, right? So it's the adoption that's always going to limit out. But the thing is, it's so disruptive that you're going to have startups that just pretty much remake every other organizational feature, right? And 10x the reduction in the cost, because you're just going to need one developer. And it doesn't even have to be a 10x developer. It could just be a normal person that knows what people want, like Stripe, right? You could just rebuild Stripe with 10x, a
Stripe
10x
is,
reduction in the cost.
Credit card processing.
Yeah, and all it does is have really good APIs to be able to connect in for people to integrate with their websites. So as sort of a fintech feature, the main sort of cost of it is sort of all that people maintaining the code and trying to onboard more customers. But if you have an AI agent for you to do the sales and marketing, have GPT-4 to do the coding, and then these other AI agents to plug in all the different sort of components to help make that API much more compelling.
So that's
Just
all.
need one person, just like they rebuilt Flappy Birds using Midjourney and just a couple of codecs.
There's so much. I don't know what you'd call it. Like I don't know, like things, red tape that slows down everything that we're so used to trotting through.
Yeah.
And
data and privacy is important though, right?
Yeah,
So
but there's so many things that need to. I mean, the law has to step up.
Yeah.
Our like there's this is also from the A.I Dilemma,
Mm.
where if you like we won't have laws
Mm.
until like new technologies require new laws.
Mm.
So like
Mm.
for instance, uh, if they gave the example of if China wanted to disrupt the US, all
Mm.
they would have to do is give a Biden and Trump audio filter to everyone on TikTok,
Yeah,
and it
exactly.
would create just mayhem.
Which
And
has already happened. Like you can do this like in a
yeah,
few minutes.
and it would be completely legal because there's no law against it. Just like when
Yeah,
Neuralink
yeah,
comes
yeah.
out, and we were able to read people's thoughts.
Mm.
There's no law against that yet. So they would
Yeah,
have to, you'd have to have like a right to think,
that's right.
privacy, and all
Yeah,
this.
yeah.
So I mean that when these new, every time
Mm.
these new sets of technologies come out, you have to
Yeah.
create laws for them.
I wonder if the legal system needs to sort of evolve to the point it needs to be dynamic, principle based, and also like real time updated based on the real time thoughts of people, like experiences. Is it making them better off or worse off, like as a collective group, right? Because that's what democracy sort of serves, direct democracy on each individual policy. And if you could sync that up with real time experiences of users, then you can potentially like mitigate the damage that new technology has, right? It's
Yeah.
just like if people are feeling like they're being impersonated all of a sudden, okay, well, straight away you could automatically experience that in the collective consciousness of people and
So
seeing
you
that.
mean direct democracy, or like what we've got over in the US, like you have a democratic republic
Yeah, I
where
mean it's inefficient,
representatives?
right? Because
Yeah.
you're relying you're having your faith in a representative that will
Yeah.
that they will do what they say on that particular
Mm.
policy. And usually it's usually policies that they sort of string up in the narrative to get you really, roughed up and vote for them. And so if it's coming from the actual experiences of individuals, and that should translate into a resonance of what the policy should be, that's probably where the future of regulation and laws could come in. Because right now, you're right, it's so rigid. The red tape's too much to even get to them to comprehend what the issue is. Like,
Mm.
they argue about the whole, in self-driving cars, they argued about the whole
Trolley
the
problem.
trolley problem,
They don't
which is
even,
like a
never even fixed
non-issue.
it.
It's like, come on, like how often is that going to happen? Like
Yeah, it's a
seriously.
very, very
Yeah.
convoluted, contrived.
What they should be worried about is all those like Uber drivers and truck drivers and people in the driving industry that's like in the top 10 of the most employed people, and people in retail and manufacturing, right? All those people that will be disrupted by this automation
See,
because
this is the thing. We need
mm,
a new economy
mm,
so that things don't fall through the floor.
yeah.
And then, I mean, look, if we take the let's just look at it at zero sums here. So
Mm,
the neuron is now we're able to do whatever our biological neurons can
mm,
do eventually.
mm,
So that means that anything that we have invested in education wise,
mm,
skills wise,
mm.
that's eventually not going to really mean much
Yeah.
because
It wasn't even that fun, right?
yeah,
Some of
it
that wasn't even that
wasn't
much.
even fun.
It was meant to be an experience, but it was
Yeah.
just rope learning.
So it's like, if you spent 10, 15 years becoming a lawyer or a brain surgeon or whatever it is,
Mm,
I mean that is there because you put in the effort and you've attained that level, and your skills are scarce.
mm,
And that's kind of, that doesn't, it's not going to apply. It's going to apply less and less and less.
yeah.
And so what will people do? And I guess it's like fulfillment.
Mm,
It really becomes about fulfillment. But
mm,
then that's all well and good. But the whole economy has to transition
yeah.
at the same at
That's right.
during that time.
And what is the economy, right? It's they measured in GDP, but it should be really a reflection of how fulfilled you are as an individual in that society.
Gross domestic fulfillment.
Yeah, exactly. You gotta get that up. Gotta coin it. right?
Gross
So,
domestic
they try to do the
thought.
whole gross happiness index, but people can just take some drugs and, be off the rails. Have you seen that? You remember that cartoon video called Happiness with the rats, going to work in their tires and squeezing into public transport, chasing after their dreams and, getting a parking ticket in their Ferrari because traffic jams. And it's like, oh, so sad.
I
And
haven't
then
seen it.
just becomes an alcoholic and starts chasing cheese and, drugs, hard drugs, and it turns into Mickey Mouse because it's on drugs.
Oh my gosh, I need to
And
see
then
this.
it's so good. It's by Steve Cutts. It's called Happiness. Yeah,
Okay.
check it out. It's really well made, high production value,
Oh
but
my
it reminds me of just about everyday life.
gosh. Well,
The rat race.
even in
Hmm.
like, cause I've dabbled in film production, etc.,
Hmm.
and I've worked in LA for a bit,
Hmm.
and the whole, I mean, now that we've got these tools,
Yeah,
and they're very,
that's right. Runway Gen 2.
yeah, and
Spin it up.
when they really mature,
Mm.
you will be able to create Marvel level
Yeah.
cinematic movies.
You'll be able to put yourself in those movies. Like Wonder
Yeah.
Studios, you saw that demo, right? It's just replace the human with an alien, just like
Yes.
through drag and drop.
Yes, that's
And they did the real tests as well. I saw the live
Studio.
demos. Yeah, Wonder Studios.
Wonder
Yeah,
Studio. Yes.
they did the live demos. Like there's a bit of blur around the edges, but that can be fixed up in post,
Yeah, yeah,
especially if you're using a green screen, right?
Yeah.
And so like that's incredible. So you can become a Marvel character, and the
And
people will pay for that.
All of that skill set, being able to like
Mm.
mask out the characters, drop in different characters, animate it. That took so long, and it was just a labor of love for a lot of these people who got paid and were rorted in the industry, really.
Yeah.
And now it's just like one click of a button and your industry is finished.
Oh, well,
And I can talk because
Yeah,
I do websites,
yeah.
and I saw
Yeah.
a post by Woozy,
Mm.
and it's just one click and your website's done.
Yeah.
Don't need web designers anymore.
Yeah, exactly.
So
Well, that's the thing. It's like, all those little filling with around the edges and the details around that shorts could be fulfilling for some people, but then they, just like that person we heard on Twitter, like, pretty much leaving their,
the lament,
the 3D designer job because,
yes,
put so much love and sort of sweat into it. But now they can actually use that technology to actually build, 1000x what they used to be able to do. So I think it's changing the mindset, and it's the people that can sort of think of that creative output as the vision and value of and the mission of what they're trying to do.
I think
as
that
opposed
you
to
could
like
you could
you
call
could
it,
do that for a hobby, right? You could still do it if
yes,
you wanted to.
yes, and I think another way of looking at it is that that term, the sunk cost.
Yeah.
So people see it as they've invested so much time and effort learning something,
spilt milk. Yeah.
and it's just it's like I've spent all this time walking 18 kilometers to the mall, and in the last 2 kilometers I realized it's shut.
Yeah.
Well, it's just that feeling of I've wasted 18 kilometers of walking for nothing.
Man, this is why I love talking to like older, wiser people, because they're towards the end of their life, right? They might tell you, look, all of this stuff that you're worrying about, by the time you get to the end of it, it's like none of it matters, right? Just as long as you enjoy the journey. It's kind of, this is like, holy shit, are we all gonna feel that? Like by the time we get there, it's like, was it all a sunk cost? Yeah, this whole time, which is why we got to figure out how to extend our healthy human lifespans as much as we can, because I don't want to get that experience. I don't want to feel like it's a sunk cost.
Hey, that reminds me of my dad. My dad, well, my dad just told me, oh, I'm your dad. That was it. Like, I found out what he did. He would say, oh, he worked in certain things, and he was the tutor to President Marcos's son. He said that much, but then he didn't say other stuff. Like, I Googled my name. This is like 15 years ago, like early 2000s, mid 2000s. I Googled my name, and his name came up above my name. I'm like, what? My dad's name is above my... And I found out that he was the author of several books, right? There was one, The Yakans of Basilan Island.
Wow.
So that's how he got his PhD.
Yeah, wow.
He went to Basilan Island as a native, Sorry, he got accepted into the tribe,
Mm.
lived with them for years,
Wow.
learnt their language, and created an English to Yakan dictionary.
Wow. That's incredible.
So, and he didn't care. He didn't
Mm.
care. Like that was just his thing to his academic life. It had nothing to do with his enjoyment of life. You know what I mean? It's like he wasn't gushing to go, Roy, I did all this. Look at
Oh,
what your dad did. He didn't care.
oh no.
I found out through an internet search.
It was part of his work.
It was just part of his work.
He
And
thought it was a chore.
yeah, and then like sometimes he would be walking and he would get his car serviced,
Mm.
and they would call him the professor,
Mm.
and they would like, whatever you want, professor. I'm like, why would they talk to him like that? Because he wrote this he translated this Khalil Gibran thing.
Oh wow.
I'm like, what is that? I looked it up. So there was a Lebanese poet
Mm.
called Khalil Gibran,
Mm.
and apparently he had a lot of beautiful poetic language,
Mm.
and he would, like, for example, some of the things. I'm going to try and remember some of the things.
Mm.
Marriage is a blessed crucifixion. I think that's one of the things he said. And one of the things,
Oh, we should tell
another
us
one of the
earlier.
things he said was, "Ask not what your country can do for you,
Mm.
but what you can do for your country."
Mm.
Someone
Yeah,
used
real
that
nice.
line.
Yeah.
But but he brought that book over to the English speaking world. Well, he wasn't
Mm.
the only one, but he was one of the few
Oh,
that
okay.
did that.
Yeah, nice.
And even famously, that Norman Schwarzkopf, General Norman Schwarzkopf
Mm.
from
Mm.
Operation Desert
Yeah,
Storm,
yeah.
he had a copy of that book
Oh
at his
wow.
bedside. And I was thinking, you don't tell anyone this, Dad?
That's
He
insane.
doesn't care.
Imagine if if you were able to like bring all aspects of him back, like in terms of everything online, everything he's ever said, all the sort of emails and messages, and then create an avatar of him that speaks in that same voice that you can interact with. Like,
Yeah,
would you do it?
well, there's one thing about
Mm.
him that I really didn't understand for a long time, and that is we couldn't even go to a movie, couldn't go to holidays. He saw it as a waste of time. He didn't really know how to have fun
Mm.
and relax because he worked so hard for so long,
Mm.
his whole life.
Mm.
He, it wasn't he
didn't
didn't even develop a way
Did he
to
actually
relax.
live? Yeah. Yeah, he didn't live life like, you know, every single day. Make the most of it.
But no, he did a lot of great things.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like he was an incredible person.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that's the sort of thing. Like we gotta, reflect on that every single day and appreciate what we've got. And the fact that we have an opportunity now to preserve that, like make sure humanity continues on, this subjective experience continues on, that we are able to continue to enjoy it. Doesn't matter if the robots do all the sort of work that is possibly out there. We can still do what we love, right? Still
If
find
we
that
do
passion
what
in
we
do.
love and they do everything else,
Exactly.
it's the perfect combination.
That's right. And so let's hope they don't wipe us out, and make sure that it's aligned to what we want, right?
Why would
Yeah.
why would they wipe us out?
Yeah, well, that's the thing, right? It's the building the highway over the ant colony issue. So we want them
Hmm.
to keep curious.
Jeepers.
So, yeah, I mean, this is only week 4. These developments.
A long way to go.
Yeah, well,
2023.
this is like it's only April.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. So we've got, yeah, I think end of the year. They said they haven't started training GPT-5 yet, so they're just building on top of GPT-4, like all the plugins, making sure it's safe
And they're
it's
doing
useful.
incremental releases or whatever they said.
Yeah,
Which is, I guess, that's a smart move.
Well, it's aligned with the open letter, right? So the whole point of the open letter was to stop the development of GPT-5 and, anything more powerful than GPT-4, basically, for 6 months. A lot of people gave them slack for it, saying that, okay, it's because you want to catch up. What about China? The ROI is too hard to miss. It really does feel like that Don't Look Up movie, right? It's like,
Yeah.
we can mine the asteroid, not let it hit the Earth.
Yeah, that's right. That's what happened, didn't it? Instead of deflecting it, they wanted to just park it so that they can mine it.
Yeah.
Oh dear. So the whole see, this is the thing with I think with China, just to briefly touch on it. So I think any malicious move by any government or entity will eventually come to light, and they'll eventually be punished for it somehow in the public arena. Because if you think about if eventually everyone's going to become super smart or augmented to be able to think in a very intellectually complex way, you won't be able to spin anything to anyone.
Yeah.
There won't be a way to spin it. You won't be able to hide your nefarious plans.
Motives, yeah.
Everyone will see through everything.
Because, yeah, I mean, you just use a different language model, right? I think they're going to ban all the other language models in terms of the APIs, right? I think that's probably what they'll do. I mean, some are saying that it's going to be very hard for China to develop a better language model than the OpenAI versions or every other open source ones, right? Not that OpenAI is open source, but the fact that you can't have certain number like sequences like that represent something that's politically sensitive, right?
Oh, right.
For example, like the number 64, right? That's like the Tiananmen Square massacre.
Oh, is it?
And things like Winnie the Pooh can't be in there. Language models, you can't have certain things like
Oh, you mean try to
like
not train it
all
with
these
certain
censored
things?
outputs,
Yeah,
right?
you can't
You're
control
gonna
it.
skew like even if it's just a next word predictor. The fact that you're skewing it against the sort of the higher probability words means that you got a pretty high temperature, or you're skewing the probabilities of where that sort of best output would land. So you're not going to optimize for the reinforcement learning with human feedback that you would have.
It's like what Princess Leia said, the more you tighten your grip, the more it'll slip through your fingers.
Yeah. Oh, we'll see, right? I think Alibaba and Baidu and all those guys are coming out with pretty decent models, so they'll figure out they'll figure out a way. But one of the things that really strikes me is like a lot of people are starting to work on their data moats, right? It's like, you got to keep our privileged data and make sure that that's our gold, right? That's our new oxygen.
We humans have the tendency to just try and find the most valuable thing that we think is the most valuable. And just, I mean, I don't.
Tulips.
Yeah, like maybe it is something that is evolutionarily, sought after and or what made us successful in the past. But it's like maybe it'll be our undoing.
Yeah,
maybe it's part of the great filter test.
Yeah, exactly. Well, our hunter-gatherers will be able to evolve. But even with these data moat concepts, the fact that we saw, alpaca being trained on a llama from Meta using OpenAI's ChatGPT, right, to fine-tune their model, that's basically taking a lot of the learnings from ChatGPT. So in terms of what's in their data moat
Did they do
of the reinforcement learning.
This was for the 7 billion? Or
Yeah, the
13
7 billion, yeah, for alpaca. So they used
I thought they took the weights.
Yeah, they took the weights as well from Meta, but combining that with and trained it and fine tuning it with ChatGPT,
Is it
right?
for
So that's
13
how you're
million?
able to circumvent that data moat because you're using like 52,000 examples from ChatGPT in terms of the prompts and the feedback to train your own model.
Right.
And that's how you could almost like a teacher. You're learning from the teacher. You might not ever be as good as the teacher, but you can learn from many other teachers that eventually you get sort of a better general view of the world so that you surpass the knowledge of the original teacher. So that's one way you can put how you can get around the data mode of that sort of specialized knowledge, privileged knowledge in there.
Right.